Night Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. So good to be here after such a crazy week. I don't know if it's been crazy for you, but everybody that I've been talking to says exactly the same thing. But I don't want to let the show open go by without wishing a happy anniversary to our dear KGRA and our wonderful KGRA family. Congratulations, guys. You guys are rocking it through the years. So I'm happy to be a part of that. And guess what? Tonight we got back our beloved James, our historian, James Martin. So I'm going to bring him up right away, and we're going to talk about his latest journeys and his latest trips and some of the new things that he's been finding. And then second hour coming up, we're going to get into a little bit of European history, particularly with respect to the region that is now war-torn in the region that we call now Ukraine, and sort of how that all started, the context in which some of those rivalries and wars began, and sort of where we ended up today, where we are. Hello, James.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be back after, a good few weeks.
Yeah.
I hope
Seems
everybody's
like forever.
I hope everybody's well and well rested. I do apologize in advance. I'm running on very little sleep at the minute. So if you do see me drinking more coffee than usual, that's the reason why.
Oh, okay. Wait, is that really coffee, though? That's what I want to know. I tell you, it has been a week for the books, across the world, and then on sort of a micro level, in everybody's own dealings. I know you've been on the road doing a lot of traveling. Your partner just started working again, and it's, your schedules are all whopper-jawed. And I'm doing the same. As you guys may notice, those of you who've been here before, I'm in a different location. Right now, I'm in a secret location high above beautiful Tarzana, California. I'm actually visiting with a friend, and me and my dog. I don't know if you can see him behind me on the bed there, but I'm sure he'll raise his gorgeous head at some point. That's Biggie. If you see him moving around, try not to be startled because he's quite large. But anyhow, I should have had you bring Doug in, James, and they could have said hello to each other.
They could, because that's just what we need: more barking and
more dogs,
more dogs,
and more barking, yes. And more distractions. Yeah, one of my dogs escaped tonight as I was trying to get over here. Of course, I had all kinds of junk with me, and she ran out the door, so I had to go chase her down. And he's like, took me twice as long to get here than it should have, just for all the things that were going wrong. But anyway, I'm not going to gas on about all my craziness at home. I did want to send out a couple of hellos, though, if you guys would indulge me. I want to say hello to my good friend Myrna in Tulsa. It was so good to see you and to spend time with you. I mean, decades disappeared the moment, we got in each other's company. We had a ball, we laughed, we danced, we went crazy. But, Myrna is a friend of mine for many, many, many years. And I got a chance to spend some time with her, and also my sister, Donna, and brother-in-law, Tom, and my cousin, John. So hi to all you guys. I miss you already. And I'd also like to say a special thank you to my friend Colleen, who's allowing me to interrupt her home here and do my show for the next 2 hours. So thank you for indulging me, Colleen and Biggie. Biggie loves to come and visit Aunt Colleen. Anyway, so now you've just come back to France from the UK once again, and I know you've been out poking around as you normally do, and it seems like you always find things, and sometimes in kind of odd or unexpected places. So I'm hoping that you can bring us few updates on some of that. And also, maybe even before we get started, we haven't talked in a long time about your interactive Templar map. And I know you've added sites on there since the last time we actually talked about it on air. But also talk about, the fact that people are already using it for their own devices. So if you could talk a little bit about what's new and sort of what's happening, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. I just want to give a shout out as well to Bill. Happy birthday
Happy
for
birthday!
yesterday.
That's it. I totally meant to do that, but I thought I'm going to wait till James gets on so we can both say it. And of course, I totally forgot. So thank you so much, James. Happy birthday, Bill. We love you very much.
I was special April Fool.
Even though you harass us all the time, and even though you're censoring our content that we wanted to present tonight, we're going to have to present it in a private setting, which we will advise our listeners of and watchers of during the show. But there was a reading that James was going to do from the year 1625, and it is so profane and riddled with curse words and all kinds of really bad stuff that Bill said, no, no, no. So we didn't want to get the station taken off the air. So we'll share it with you guys privately and we'll let you know. Where do you think it's going to end up on newrennies.org?
Yeah, we'll do a recording. It's incredibly profane. The language is shocking even to me, but I have to say, when I was rereading this 2 days ago, I was crying so much with laughter, and I know
It's
a few
hilarious.
people have read this out to, and people who've read the reply. It was a Ukrainian Cossacks who were replying to the Ottoman Sultan who wanted to invade Ukraine, and their reply, I can only just put it as perfect, but not for the faint of heart.
No, obscenity laced like you wouldn't believe, but hilarious. So if you don't mind a little obscenity and, for history, for the sake of history, then I would say take a look at it we'll let you know when it's up on newrennies.org, because I think you'll get a good laugh. But what's funny about it is, especially now that you mentioned the Cossacks and the Ukrainians, is that it's kind of oddly reminiscent of what the Ukrainian soldiers were saying to that boat, that was parked off there and telling them to surrender. It's like they've still got that spirit. It's unbelievable. It's like, forget you. We're protecting our land.
That spirit goes back hundreds, thousands of years as well. And I have to say, there's many other. I mean, we'll talk about this next hour, but there's many other events and replies that, again, are very profound, but certainly put off a few invaders, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that is interesting because, even though we talked about this before, I didn't even think about the connection of with that and what is going on today in terms of a response. But, and I know we're going to get into this a lot next hour, so I don't want to dwell too much on that. But I was reading and watching some news programs and things like that on, sort of what's going on there and what's gone on a little bit in the past in that area. and they were talking about how, yes, it definitely, this spirit of these people, protecting their land, it's so visible today. But they were saying that, in 2014, during the attack, by Russia in order to annex Crimea, that somehow it didn't quite rise, that spirit didn't rise to the level. But this time, all bets are off. I mean, the people down to the grannies and the granddads and the kids, they're all defiant in the face of this crazy, unprovoked attack. So it's really interesting now how they've sort of found their ancestral spirit and are, putting it to good use. They're fighting for themselves, and in my mind, they're fighting for democracy, which means they're fighting for the whole world. So power to them.
And
Slava Ukraine.
especially power to the Ukrainian farmers who've been towing away tanks and planes and other such things. It's truly been remarkable to watch.
It is quite amazing. But so, we have been so busy, you and I, that we've hardly had time to talk about anything. So whatever you're going to present tonight in terms of your trip and your findings, it's all going to be news to me, just like the rest of the audience. So hopefully I can come up with some reasonable questions, and and at the very least some properly placed oohs and ahs. So why don't you tell me, where did you go this time?
Well, all over the show, really. I was asked to try and verify for a good friend, Tom. So if you're listening, Tom, hello. Whether or not a site was Templar or Hospitaller, really to try and put the final nail in a particular coffin. I'll just start off with the map. So before I get into the various sites, because you might be able to see where some of the sites are. Must be 8 or 9 years ago that I started actually mapping Templar sites, farms, preceptories, you name it, onto a map. And it's a labor of love. It's taking a very long time. I do know that it's inspired a few people to
use it on their television shows.
And a few tours, which has been a bit bemusing. So I'm not naming and shaming anyone, but when I saw the word, this is the first time this has been uncovered in Scotland, I do have to say, I thought, well, it's not, because I've been. So, and
you should
many
have
other
said
people,
thank you. Well, thank you very much for the acknowledgement.
Here's the map of the UK, Ireland, and you can see a bit of the Netherlands. And each cross represents a Templar preceptory. If you imagine just how much work has to go into not just the preceptories, but then there's very few farmsteads, there's very few farming, houses that we could put onto this map. It's it's going to take quite a long time to produce. But if you see where there is a question mark, so for those who are watching on the show, I'm just showing a map. For those who are listening, imagine. There's a question mark that's a site near a place called Dunbar. And just below that, there's a red cross. That's in northern England. England, we always think, is being south of Scotland, but actually there's parts of England where to the south is Scotland. And that's really where I've been on my travels, as well as into a little bit further south.
You mean to the northeast of Scotland, right?
It's the central belt, and the question mark that's on its own.
Yes, I see. Okay.
So the other ones that are in the northeast of Scotland, around Aberdeen.
Now, also with these, all those red crosses that those who are watching, would have been able to see, of those, like, what percentage do you reckon are not currently recognized? That things that you've come across or that others have sent to you that are kind of, new findings.
As a percentage with new findings, I wouldn't suggest it's that high, actually. The key problem is that there are the Templars. I mean, in previous shows, and maybe after the next break, I could show you the map of Europe. There are that many of them, that many Templar preceptories and sites. And remember, the Templars didn't build a lot of their own stuff. They were donated to them.
Yes.
From various local lords, landholders, things like this. So in terms of things that are new, not too much. Where there are newer finds, I would suggest that they're in Scotland and in France. And of course, I just say this, they're only new for us. They've obviously been known to history because people lived and worked in them. So it's sort of a rediscovery, but only a handful of sites, if I'm being honest. So in Scotland, for example, there was a historian, Maidment's his name, and he suggested there were only 2 sites in Scotland. That's a Templar, and no sites whatsoever in Argyllshire. Don't look behind you. Look behind you. So, step one of my travels many, many years ago was to Argyll and found quite a bit there. Now, I'm not suggesting it would be subject to another book. I'm not suggesting that 100% some of the sites are Templar. What I am suggesting is there are very similar graves. There are very similar crosses that the Templars used, and it looks, sounds, and barks like a Templar. You're tempted to say it's Templar, but again, research is ongoing. So it's very much in terms of the map and in terms of the site. Every cross, you can click on it. It'll give you source material, and that's really important. It's not speculative. Any of the sites on the map that have got a question mark on it are speculative. It's local rumor and that kind of thing. Most of the sites have got bona fide sources, so we know that they are Templar. And seem to have been forgotten. I mean, as I say, up in Aberdeen, for example, where there's Temple Park, there's a variety of houses owned by the order up there. We don't seem really to talk about it. We seem to think that Scotland Templars were just around near Roslin, Ballintroduch, and Edinburgh. I'm just reminded, Renee, I mean, something that we have spoke about. So it was a few years back, I was asked to translate that Latin document.
Oh, yeah.
Which was genuinely for the Lord Lindsay through an intermediary. I'd said yes, because the person who was meant to be translating it originally was sick. This is pre-COVID, by the way. So I had a look at it, and unfortunately, it wasn't what the Lord Lindsay, the 18th Lord, it didn't contain what he was looking for, essentially a land claim. What was interesting, though, and this is one of the strange coincidences that seem to pop up all the time when looking at Templars and other such things, was, of course, that this claim was a former Templar holding, including a preceptory, a place called Temple Liston. Now, that hadn't been documented in modern history, but had in medieval and early modern history. So things like that appear up on the map. And you've got to remember as well, a lot of sites, regrettably, aren't there. So there was a site, Temple Thornhill, where there's just no evidence above ground that there's building there. However, there has been LiDAR, there have been digs that have confirmed that this was the location of a commandery, Temple. I think it's Temple Thornton, actually, not Temple Thornhill, where there's just nothing there above ground, which makes for one very disappointed James. But there are some clues left. So Temple Thornton, there was nothing there. Bit disappointed, but I did note with interest that the farm that occupied the site is still called Temple Farm.
It's weird. Now, when Tom asked you to check out the site that, to see whether it was Templar or Hospitaller, did he have, that's it?
Yeah.
Did he have was he hoping for one or the other, or was he just looking for the answer?
It's about 98% certain that this was a Hospitaller site, he later revealed. However, there had been some rumours, and I suppose one of the difficult things is, when the Templars, I always refer to England, or the now UK, in terms of Templars, as being the Templars' retirement home. Genuinely speaking, there's a lot of retirees from Crusades and all of that end up in England and Scotland. One of the problems is when the Templars were disbanded in England in 1312, there wasn't really much enforcement of giving property either back to the original donors' families or, as was instructed, to the Hospitaller. There wasn't much enforcement. So you find even during Henry VIII's time, a good 200 years later, the hospital is still saying, can we have our land back? And of course, Henry's response was to get rid of all of the monasteries, so they never got it anyway. So curiosities begin to emerge. Like, for example, that Sassine document I was referring to that I translated, who owned this building, because it was a claim for that it had to be seized by the Crown to be given to one of Lord Lindsay's other relatives, a different family line. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that crop up all of the time. Who owned what? The other thing that can be that's difficult is just naturally. So we'll be talking about Ukraine. There's someone who's asked me to look at their family history, and a lot of their grandparents are Ukrainian. War often means that documents relating to ownership, revolution does this too, are often destroyed. There's still some issues in France, for example, relating to the revolution. How much land did this house come with? So there's issues like that. So when you're trying to establish whether something's hospital or Templar, well, if the hospital did get hold of it, is it because they've always had it? Or is it because it was Templar and then given to them?
Yeah. Now, I know it used to be, and, I'm still not, as solid on all of it as I should be. But I know for a lot of people, it's confusing, the difference, between the Knights Hospitaller and the Knights Templar. I mean, you hear other names, the Knights of Christ, things like that. So, I mean, what... just those two, the Knights Templar and the Hospitallers, what is the difference in those two? Is it a time period? Is it completely two separate groups, which I believe that it is? But could you just sort of, for the audience, explain the difference between those two groups?
Yeah, absolutely. They are two very different orders. In fact, they really didn't get on with each other too much, but just give you a little bit of context. When I was studying history, I didn't study medieval history, but it was one of the first things that I had to get my head around. So you've got, in the First Crusade period, you've got this notion of there needed to be a group to help pilgrims going to the Holy Land or crusading or things like this. And in a nutshell, that's the Knights Templar. They were established. There was a lot of digging involved, and a lot of mystery about how they were actually founded and exactly when. But they were responsible for assisting pilgrims, crusaders, etc., over to the what they called Outremer or Outremer, which means overseas, or the area that we
but
know
weren't there
now.
like 9 of them? 9 Templars? I mean, come on.
There could be 7, there could be 9,
much-
there could be 11 of the
How
founding
much
Templars.
protection would that be?
None, because when they were founded, I don't think they'd established that they were going to then help pilgrims. They were doing a bit of digging.
I flipped sides, didn't I? Oh, who did that?
So yeah, and not very much. And by the way, I think when we refer to those people who were apparently digging, under the Temple of Solomon and what have you, Temple Mount, just a reminder, elderly knights are probably not digging in the heat. It's likely their servants, the pages, and all the other retinue that they have.
Why would the knights have necessarily been elderly?
Well, they were. The names that are associated with the original were
we know the original names of the original group. Yeah. So of course we'd be able to figure out their ages. Yeah.
Well-to-do things like that. So you've got them now. The First Crusade, off memory, is 1096. Templars might be around then. They 1118, but anyway, we're in this period. And there's another group as well who are based in the hospital and Temple Mount, and they are providing care. Don't think of it as a modern hospital, though. If you were sent to one of those hospitals, you might as well make peace with yourself. Because,
maybe it's a good thing it was on the Temple Mount. You could make peace with your maker there.
They become known as the Hospitaller or the Knights Hospitaller, and they eventually they don't fracture per se, but the offshoots of them and other orders, you end up with the Knights of Malta. The Knights of Christ are over in Portugal, but just for our two very separate orders doing very separate things, vying for as much wealth, attention, donations, and all of this. And we're very childish and used to do childish things to each other if they were in close proximity. Like, for example, stealing water or dressing up in each other's habits, being a bit naughty, things like this, and then saying, "Oh, I'm a hospitaller," and then chuckle, run away. Really childish pranks. Seriously, Helen Nicholson did a very good job when she looked at some of these pranks, and they are very funny, but there we go.
Did the Hospitallers, were they a fighting group at all?
Yeah, they entered into a lot of battles. I mean, they give you an idea. After the First Crusade, there's many, many other crusades in that area. But it's not too long before landowners think, yeah, this probably isn't going to go too well. And it's quite costly running these castles. So around about 90% of all of the castles that are in the Middle East, so we're talking Palestine, Israel, the Lebanon, Syria, around this area, about 90% are owned by the orders, the Templars and the Hospitaller. In fact, when we're talking 1150s now, a little bit later, there are only 3 secular lords who own any castles or military installations. So they ruled the roost, in part because they had the networks to get money and resources. And you've just seen the map of, I'll put it up again, just of some of the sites in the UK and Ireland. What this map doesn't show is all the farms that they owned, and all of this farming, the banking, the you name it, etc., was all helping to support their cause in the Middle East.
So all those red crosses that are currently on the map are all preceptories?
Yep.
That is wild, because, I thought that it included just other things that, you might have been at some area and you found one stone with some marking on it or something like that. But these are, oh my gosh, there were so many.
Yeah, the Knights Templar were, look,
They ruled the
they
roost.
were commanding entire countries' treasuries. They were in charge of travelers' checks, essentially.
They were the initiators of it, right? The banking system.
Yeah, these
Almost.
were very wealthy. And of course, lords would donate to the order with the view that they've helped with the crusade. They've done some form of penance to God, which is very interesting. So, unfortunately, going back to our, it's called Low Shibburn or Kibburn.
Now, where is that exactly?
That's in the northeast of England, in Northumberland. It's very, very, very difficult to get to, and I must admit I've had a few arguments to even get there. And almost certainly this is a hospitaller site. There was a rumor that said that this was a Templar site, and it's possible that the Templars had a farm nearby, but this site itself looks as if it was a preceptory owned originally by the hospitaller.
And what did you look for to tell you that? What showed you that? Was it the style of the building?
Well, this one was donated to the hospital, as I say, and it's very difficult to get the exact date. I mean, the hospital was founded in 1023 or thereabouts. Again, it's very difficult to date. But there were little things, like, for example, modifications. So how can I put it? If you see a building that has been modified more for comfort than for military purposes, so instead of having very narrow slit windows, which were used for keeping the warmth in, as well as firing bows and arrows, things like this. If you see that they've expanded into what we would refer to as a window, that building has been occupied after. So someone's been there. And because someone's been there, you then start looking for, well, who? And in this example, we knew it was the hospital. They could have taken it over after 1312, and the first mention of this place comes from 1313. So could it be Templar? You then start looking at some separate buildings and all of this, including, I should just mention this now, where you see a great hall and where monks would eat. If there's a separate room, just
I know what you're going to say.
It's remembering Lent and particular days, Fridays, you're not meant to eat meat. Well, there are reports from in the medieval period of monks and others becoming noisome, becoming distracted, unhinged. They were craving meat so bad. So the Pope, very quietly, of course, and various archbishops said, okay, as long as some of you are eating and following the traditions and all of this, not eating meat, then some of the rest of you can go into a darkened room and start gorging yourself on bacon. Interesting to note, this might be, just might be, the origin of the English breakfast or bacon and eggs.
Really?
Yeah, there is a possibility of it, but I'm up for debate on that one.
Unfortunately, they didn't learn how to cook it properly because you guys like that floppy bacon, and there is nothing better than crispy bacon. So
I don't know where you've been eating, but I'm a fan of crispy bacon.
okay, well I know you are, but
And you guys don't put all the rest of it together. Hash
who
browns and
needs a mushroom
tomatoes.
and
No, we don't need mushrooms.
a
No.
tomato? No, we have hash browns. Are you kidding? Hash browns is American. American is apple pie.
Well,
Hot dogs, apple pie, and hash browns.
You need a cup of tea, some toast, bacon, eggs, sausage, proper sausage, Cumberland sausage,
proper sausage,
hash browns, and some Heinz ketchup.
Oh yes. All right. I thought Heinz was American.
I am, of course, not suggesting that the you'd find in some darkened room you're going to find, what's that noise? Oh, is someone broke wind? No, it's the ketchup.
Yeah.
They didn't have it, but hey, it could be the origin of bacon and eggs.
Well, I know that if I was living during that time, I would have definitely been found in the meat room. There would have been no way I could have. I mean, if it's only on Fridays, I guess I could forego. But
Lent.
Yeah. Oh, for Lent. Yeah, the whole of Lent, right?
You end up with just on this, we're sort of going a little off topic, but you do end up with some very curious statements for people trying to get around things. I think it was otters were considered as a fish because they're in water. So you can be otters. And you end up with these very strange, very, very strange
exceptions.
Food yeah.
I guess that's news to the otters that they're fish.
Yeah, I don't think they'd understand what a concept of a fish is.
That's so funny.
But there we go. So the next site, it's one of these things. This was working and then just spending a weekend with a friend. So I'll talk briefly just about one site, which is called Pen Hill. Where there's this lovely signage there explaining
the preceptory of the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
Built in circa 1200 and handed over on their suppression in 1312 to the Hospitallers. Okay, there we go. Very interesting. So that was in 1312.
So remember, in France, you have Friday the 13th of October, 1307.
1307.
And yeah,
which for those that don't know, is the date that's traditionally recognized as the sort of end of the Knights Templar, or the Iron Fist coming down on the Knights Templar. A lot of people believe that that's sort of where we get the bad luck on Friday the 13th, because it was on a Friday, the 13th of October. So,
but in England, well, Scotland's been excommunicated, so no one's in a hurry to get rid of the Scottish Templars. And in England, well, we're not following the rules of a French king, so there's a very haphazard. It's not until the Pope issues the formal dissolution that in England, this is 1312, that in England properties are meant to go over. But some just very interesting place. So this is an example of a place that you can see things above ground. And if you have a look at this next picture, you can see that there is a coffin, stone coffin, at the centre. Just off centre left of this picture. So,
is that another coffin up at the top, or is that something else?
I think that is something else. It might be some sort of altar. I mean, it didn't look very coffin-like, whereas this one did. And who knows who was buried in there? I have to say, but this is part of a much larger complex. Only that part of the preceptory had been uncovered. So housing and other such things hadn't been. But that's near Wensleydale, which is famous for its cheese. So if any of you know of Wallace and Gromit, and Wallace's favourite cheese is Wensleydale.
Oh, really?
That's where Penn Hill is.
Great.
So my travels took me up really to the Scottish border, a place called Bamborough, where there was a church, and this was again another tip-off around the church of Bamborough having a Templar gravestone there. And this was what I found. And you can see, I can't date it, unfortunately, but I can see there's certainly some Templar connection because you have the skull facing to the left with a hole in the front.
Ooh.
So if not Templar, most certainly, perhaps even Masonic, who knows. But it's very, very interesting. There's the back of the grave. There's obviously quite a large amount of weathering there. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. And Bamborough itself is very close to Lindisfarne, where the Vikings came along and raided. And going into the church itself,
wow,
we get to see a crusader. Now, it's sometimes the case, it's not always the case, but if a knight has their legs crossed, it's not because they need the toilet, though it could be, who knows, but it usually indicates that they have been on crusade. So left over right, been on crusade. I think right over left, been on more than one crusade. It's not always the case, though. But I found that quite interesting to see.
And by crusade, is that necessarily indicative of going, eastward, or could it indicate a battle of some kind?
Usually we're referring to going on crusade, which almost certainly would lead to some sort of military, not necessarily conflict, but engagement, and almost certainly we're referring to the crusades in the Near East, across the Levant. We're not necessarily referring to the Prussian Crusades, basically, or the Baltic Crusades, or in fact the Albigensian one, south of France. Usually, we're referring to, or even Spain for that matter. We're usually referring to the Crusades in the Middle East with that, but it's not always the case. There are exceptions to this, for sure. So after that, I thought I would go and see if I can find. Well, I wanted to find something that was a little bit more personal to me, and this was a very ancient ancestor called Gospatrick. He was the Earl of Northumberland. Gospatrick, son of Patrick, basically.
Yeah.
And ended up in a place called Norham. Now, I managed to correct my family tree visiting this church. I had Gospatrick, who was the first Earl of Northumberland, who was buried there after he died, and he sort of dies after William the Conqueror. So what he's done is he's sort of risen up. I'm at the Earl, and William the Conqueror's gone. Hi, you're not. And it was stabby time for him, so that's where he was.
Stabby time again.
Going to have stabby time. What I wasn't expecting was a totem that has been made of all of the fragments of slabs of knights, crusaders, and I'll just show you some of the ideas here. Some of the fragments in this totem are from the 600s. So if you see in the top right-hand corner of this image, you can see a saint with a halo around it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one side. You'll have to excuse one of our mutual friends in some of these pictures.
I saw. Oh, it's Jeannie.
So, yeah, moment of fame, Jeannie. She's reading the tour book that's attached to the totem.
I like the previous pic. There you go. That's a better image of her.
It almost looks as if the top of her body is in fact the saint.
Her head is embedded in the rock there or something. Oh, that's funny. There she is.
Yeah, reading the group, and then of course, what
that's
do we
the
see
racing form, isn't it?
It is, yes. I was going to buy her a book, but I could see she already had one. But you can see here you've got the temple cross as well embedded within this totem.
Yes.
So really, really interesting for me. And again, just some different images of this totem in this beautiful church right on the border.
And what is the name of this church?
It's Norham.
Norham.
And it's the Church of Saint Cuthbert.
Okay.
Yeah, Cuthbert was he was a saint, and he established perhaps a church on Lindisfarne, and the relics, or the bones, I should say, of Saint Cuthbert were, when they were removed from Lindisfarne, were sent over to Norham before they ended up being sent for sort of permanent rest, if you will, in Durham. And there we've got another knight. And there might be a suggestion that this knight was a Templar. There was certainly a suggestion when I was doing some research on it. But I should just tell you about the importance to world history of this strange church, none of which was particularly apparent to me before I went. Like I say, I just wanted to pay my respects to an ancestor of mine. Well, it was in this church that Edward I invited 13 contenders for the Scottish throne into the church to decide who it was that was going to become King of Scotland. Robert the Bruce was there, but as we know, Edward didn't choose Robert the Bruce. John Comyn was there, as well as John Balliol, who was there. And of course, as we know, Edward ends up going for what's called the Comyn-Balliol alliance and all of this. And Balliol knelt in the church, paid homage to Edward for the throne, and all of this. Well, that was in 1292, and between 1292 and 1320, there were a few uprisings by Robert the Bruce, who, when he kicks the English out of Scotland, or most of Scotland, the first place he goes to, not attack, but visit with swords, if you see what I'm saying, is the church at Norham.
Wow.
And he's there in 1320. So, wow, this is this is absolutely historic, integral, and not well known either. There's also holes that were made by musket balls because, again, during the English Civil War, this church was a key battleground between the parliamentarians and the royalist forces. I mean, other than you've got Gors Patrick and the arms of Charles II are in this church. If you're ever in the northeast, if you're near Berwick-on-Tweed or Newcastle, I have to recommend going there. What a treat it really is.
Oh.
But and not to mention is this Templar. Then, as I say, we've seen a little bit of Jeannie. Jeannie wanted to go to a place called Chillingham, and Chillingham Castle was the first place I ever did a haunted investigation. And
oh, right, of course it is.
And Chillingham, unfortunately, the castle was shut, but the church wasn't, and it was in there that.
Is that where we discovered the relative of Our Lady of France?
Quite, but it certainly
Lady
wasn't
Sarah.
on. Certainly was a
Right,
no. This
Honorable Sarah.
that was my last visit to the UK.
Oh, this is another one you're talking about?
Yeah, this.
Oh, I thought you were referring back to that.
Oh no.
Oh.
So we end up at Chillingham, and there had been over the previous 2 weeks an incredible storm over the UK, and there was severe damage. Trees with roots 6 meters down had been totally uprooted and collapsed. And when we got to the church at Chillingham, a tree had completely flattened some gravestones, and including a wall. And it's there that we find, someone who's unmistakable, really, when he started to talk. But wearing a sort of apron and gardening gear was the Earl Grey. Now, what I should have said to him was, can I have a tea, please?
Can I have a cup of tea? How about a cuppa?
He was much more interested in letting us see this.
Wow.
And as I say, when I was with Jeannie, I'd seen this previously, but she'd remarked that, this is more intricate than things that are in Roslyn.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. And that's there in Chillingham at the chapel.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of hauntings at Chillingham, especially in the castle, and perhaps it originates in this church. What's remarkable is you can still see some of the paint. So when you see these old stone carvings, quite often they were painted. But unfortunately, this is a tomb of someone called Sir Ralph Grey and his wife, Lady Elizabeth. And just above the tomb reads "De bon vouloir servir le roi," which means to serve the king with good tidings, goodwill, that kind of stuff. Now, Sir Ralph was not someone that I'd particularly want to meet. He is not quite a direct ancestor of mine, but here's how it goes. Sir Ralph, there was a civil war in England called the Wars of the Roses, and this was because of Lancastrians. Yorkshire had 2 different coloured roses as a emblem. Sir Ralph fought on the Lancastrian side, but his sons fought for the Yorkists. And when the Lancastrians won, sorry people from Yorkshire, Ralph had his own son committed to death by hanging, drawing and quartering. And only at the last minute said, oh no, we'll just behead you instead. Imagine doing that to your own son.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is also so amazing. And, I'm hearing this all for the first time, obviously. We're going to go to break in just a moment. And right now, we're going to take a quick soul break. And we're going to have a Mahima moment. Then we'll take an ID break. And we'll be right back with you. Have a listen.
More often than not, we block our own abundance with our own limitations. We clip the wings of our own potential. Very early on in life, we are given signs by the universe how to follow our own truth. Sometimes we may be pressurized to do something which doesn't really align with our higher self. Or sometimes we keep doing some things which make us restless, which make us unhappy and sad. Yet we continue doing because of some reason or the other, some conditioning, some social pressures. Very early on, I stuck out like a sore thumb in my family, in my environment, and I continued to go against the tide. But something pushed me into following my heart. If I hadn't done that, I would not have reached where I am today. Because now when I look back, I can only smile at all the things that I had to endure to get to this space. So follow your bliss, follow your dreams, follow your heart, because that's where the real you lies. That's where you can ultimately reach where you're meant to be.
Breath of fresh air. That was a Mahima moment. If you'd like to see more from Mahima, go to mahima.com. And now we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Welcome back to Night Vision. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Renee Barnett. And with me back home is James Martin, our night vision historian. We've been talking about James's latest travels throughout the UK on the trail of Templar sites and other historical interests. So I I don't know if you were finished with Chillingham. If you want to, if you have something you want to add on to that, or uh, shall we move on? I'm going to leave that to you.
Oh, well, there wasn't much else to say. I just wanted to say a final visit to a place called Whitworth Castle, which was, I just want to show some pictures of it because it was absolutely
Oh, do
stunning.
yeah.
An absolutely beautiful venue. Unfortunately, the history of the place, it's a bit too recent. It's well beyond Templar, but there was some magnificent views of the Northumberland or Northumbrian coast from the castle. But that was my trip. As I say, I was there working and doing all of this, so a hell of a lot of things to condense into what really was a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So, could you give me, before we go forward, or I should say, before we go back in time to the history of the region that we're going to be discussing, do you have an update on the humanitarian effort? We may be hearing shortly from Jacek, our friend Jacek Golsinski, on the ground in Poland to get an idea of what he's seeing there, and also his efforts. So we're hoping. I'm just getting a message from him, and he's saying that he will be here. So when he pops in, we'll bring him on. And I think that he just got here. I'm going to bring him on up. Is that okay, James?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Here's our buddy. Hello.
Hi. Well, actually, I should say good morning.
Yes, yes.
Myself.
You and James both, are troopers to come on at this ungodly time. But we wanted to get an update, if we could, on how things are going on the ground there in Poland. And, basically, what do you see if you're a Polish citizen? Do you notice like there's a lot of people, or are they pretty much uh, taking the people in and taking them to centers and things? And how is that working?
Well, in Poland, it is well. It depends. First of all, it depends on the region because mostly the people involved in every action, every kind of action, these are the people closer to the border,
Yes.
and the main movement of the people of the Ukrainians is from the region of Lublin, Przemysl, and Rzeszów, moving south to Krakow and to Warsaw, and they are two main centers. Then there is Wrocław, which is also the western southern part of Poland, and then they are relocated further. So it's the mainstream of people moving from away from war. But in Gdansk, we don't have so many people. Well, we have quite a lot of them, but not that many as they have.
Mm.
We have rather small centers for the refugees, and they stay there for quite short time, and then they are later either taken by the people to their homes, or some of them were already more or less prepared for what has happened. So they either rent rooms, they have, and again, we have people, different people. So the rent prices went sky high, but in other places you just see many families that just accept them to their homes.
Yes.
So that's it. And many NGOs try to help, either organizing whole centers. Some schools are prepared, some not used areas are prepared for taking the refugees for a short time, and later on they either decide to stay there for a while or to move further. And lots of NGOs from the rest of Europe, they just send whole buses, or they buy plane tickets, and they fly. The whole families fly to France, Spain, Portugal, UK. Many people go there, but some of them stay in Poland because they know that they will come back to their even destroyed houses, but they will come back as soon as it's only possible.
Yeah, they want to stay close to home. They
Yes,
probably feel more at home in Poland than they might in some other countries because of language and relations between the
yes, but
peoples.
well, it's we had a quite difficult mutual history, and in the centuries, or in not centuries, because it was the 40s of the 20th century, we had quite mm, a nasty moment between Ukrainians and Polish, and there are still many grudges, if I may say so.
You mean
Be-
the
yes,
Ukraine and
yes,
Poland were at odds with each other? Oh,
yes.
okay, okay.
So yes, but now all is forgotten.
All is forgotten, all is forgiven.
Yeah. So well, people even well, I will send you later the link to the movie, which is very difficult about this. Actually, during the Second World War, probably the Poland was one of the only countries that never had their own SS troops.
Oh, really?
The Ukrainians had, Danish had, the
Ooh.
Finnish had. Yes, the Dutch, the French, they all
The
had.
Baltic countries. There's some
Yes, Baltic.
controversy in some
I,
of the Baltic countries who
yes,
still celebrate.
I forgot we had a history specialist. Yes,
That's right. You can't get anything past him, I'm telling you.
well, he knows much more than I did about it.
he's
So,
he's he's my external brain, I call him. I don't even have to think. All I have to do is come up with a question every now and then.
yeah, go and ask James; he will know.
Well, I was just getting
We had this history, and now all is forgotten.
good.
And well, people just grab them, snatch them, and take them home. I have two families under my uh, personal care, and it's a
Oh,
lovely lady with three kids and another
oh.
family. But these girls, because she has three girls. So
And is the husband back in
husband,
the?
yes, husband stays in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, that's so hard.
yes,
They must be really worried about him.
yes. And when I thought of this, they were lucky because they have their own car, not very big, but and so imagine the situation that you have to put the most important things into the car. You take your kids and your mom, because they're five ladies, and they come here. So what can they take? And I said, so what do you need? What do you need? I said, well, the bed linings, the towels, and some things to wear, because we have some, but so then you realize what's the level.
Yeah. Yeah, they have nothing. They
Yes,
left everything. All their personal items and items that probably had a lot of sentimental value, and of course their very homes. So I mean, it's so difficult to imagine. You're just living your life one day, and the
yes,
next day, the bombs are dropping, and you're scrambling for your lives,
good.
and you lose everything, and life changes forever. So yes, and some will go back. And I'm sure many want to go back,
Yes,
uh, and as soon as they possibly can. But there are others that will resettle, I imagine. Especially,
yes.
probably those that go further away. It's going to be harder to come
Hmm.
all the way back. But
Well,
it's
we
wonderful
had.
what you're doing. Uh,
Mm.
Can you
I mean,
talk a little bit more about? I know you've been working with some groups, and you had some people
mhm,
right there on the border that you were working with.
mhm.
Uh, are they seeing a lot of people coming through in bad health and injured? And how is the hospital system holding up? I know you're a doctor,
Mhm.
so you're probably in tune with that medical side of things.
Mm.
What kind
Well,
of a strain is that putting on the Polish medical system, and
they are
what is
putting in place.
needed there?
Well, the point is that not so many are the real war victims. As they, in majority, they are rather healthy. But we also accepted quite a lot of people who were taken straight from the hospitals. So they were moved from the hospital, and then immediately we were looking for the hospitals for them. So imagine a situation like a 10 or 12-year-old kid taken from the oncology ward with
Yes,
the oncotherapy stopped, and
scary.
then they come to Poland, and we try to fix it. Uh, I mean we, because I am right now, I'm standing in as the face of our association, but I am one of the weaker points in this, because I don't have either mm, such power or such money. But a friend of mine who has very good contacts in Europe, so we mm, there was a person appointed by the president as the a liaison with the medical issues, especially
Mm,
as far as the therapy is concerned. So it just happened that I know the guy, so we got in touch. But then the case was, okay. We have the Masonic lodges, the Rotarians, and some other associations from Western countries, which already have prepared like 5 million euros, sorry, 5 million euros, just for the oncology patients. So then they can be taken from the border and relocated either to UK or to Switzerland, or to the United States for the further therapy already.
yes,
So, and it was
that's
it was
great.
done. So this is it. Lots of people are taken. Well, they immediately, well, they have to register, of course, but they get the ID numbers and the papers just as Polish citizens, so they can immediately enter the whole our NHS. So they can go
Oh,
to any
that's
hospital
wonderful.
for free, to get the first medical aid, well, for free immediately. Then
So they get do they get Polish passports?
it's not a Polish passport, but it's like a
Like a
it
residency.
yes, residency, yes, exactly as you said.
But
So
will
they are
be
treated
able
like
to?
Polish citizens.
Are they able to move about freely throughout the
Yes.
EU? Oh, that's good.
Uh, EU, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe James knows
Maybe
better.
James knows.
Yeah. So this is what just segue. I'm quite critical about the UK scheme. For example, where if you are wanting to travel to the UK, there's presently you have to apply online and have a passport. Now, as Jacek's alluded to, when you're leaving a building in a hurry, whether it's been shelled or it's evacuation time, the very last thing that you're thinking about is, oh, I'll pack my bags, take the towel, oh, grab my passport.
Where's my
You have to get
passport?
out now.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that the EU has done, which I think is good, is right. There's no checks on passports or anything like that. You're more than welcome to travel within the EU. Now, there is there is a notion of yes, taking some ID and sort of, I hate the word processing people, but it is the word that some politicians have used. Um, but in terms of solidarity funds, refugees, I have to say the EU has, it's not just the funding, but the support for people who can take refugees in. Villages are opening, actually converting barns and abandoned buildings for refugees. So it's, I think that makes the huge difference. We've from the trade union front are having exactly what Jacek said. The small ragtag bunch of people that I'm working with, we've raised around about £70,000, and we've sent 3 HGV lorries worth of clothing. Tomorrow there's a Zoom call in the morning to coordinate the first HGV of purely medical supplies and
good.
what's happening there. So I'd also just say that Ukraine is a large country and shares many borders. Generally speaking, however, Poland has really knocked it out the park.
Unbelievable.
In terms of, I never thought I would see, not just given history, but also a very conservative area of Poland, which is towards the east.
Yes.
Really open their arms. I mean, put it this way. I never thought I'd see trade unionists, the Catholic Church, Freemasons working together.
Oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way.
So true. This
That's
is so true. Yes.
What a disparate group.
Well, yes, but working.
But that's wonderful. That's the way it should be. And now I know that there's been some 6 million people in Ukraine displaced, at least. How many of those have now crossed into Poland?
About 2.5 million.
2.5 million people.
To Poland only.
That's a lot of people.
Yes, that's quite a lot of people. But before the war, we had about between 100 and 200,000 Ukrainians in Poland legally working, registered, paying taxes and everything. And then when the war started, majority of those, usually young men, moved back to fight for their country. And again, so many company owners behaved like real human beings, because they said, okay, I'll give you your salary 3 months in front, go there, and then lots of Polish, but do come back alive, we need you here, so do come back, promise. So it was like this, and right now we have lots of Ukrainian, especially ladies. So everybody is helping because they are wonderful cooks, and I really mean it. They do wonderful dumplings and things like this. So
oh my God,
it's the easiest thing. So they just advertise, people like rushing. Okay, I'll buy from you. I'll order. I'll make it, and then okay. Now I have to wait 1 week to get my dumplings because they are. So okay, I can wait.
We all have to sacrifice, Jacek.
But it's so everybody is helping. We have like a Facebook, lots of Facebook pages, so helping Ukrainians in this area, in this area, in this area. So they are giving advertisements. I would like to anybody to help me with, I don't know, whatever. Dusting, helping, teaching, babysitting, and so it works. Everybody's trying to help in any possible way, because again, okay, unfortunately I must say it's not our government, but our regional authorities. So they are helping them in any way. They are getting free tickets for the bus, trams, and public transportation. They get for their kids, they get free cinema tickets.
Oh.
Yeah, the kids, they really sometimes they don't know what's going on when they had to move. So everybody's trying to help them. But then there were some cities where the Ukrainian small these societies that already had created in their places, new places for them. Okay, so we have everything for free, so we will help you. We'll just, I don't know, clean the lawns in the city. You know, they are trying. They are trying. Not a we want. No. We are very grateful that you helped us, so we can also help you in the possible way we can do it. So
That's amazing.
I am surprised, knowing the past history, that that the Polish were so open-hearted, and it's very good. And I think it's we should say thank you to Putin for that, because he helped Polish society to stick together again.
Mm-hmm. I
In
mean,
fact, I think that extends to the
unifying the
EU.
world.
The
Yes.
EU, which was looking very fragmented, increasingly the threat of Hungary leaving the EU, maybe even Poland too. It seems to have given a new purpose. And whilst we've seen the worst yet again, we see the worst of humanity. Don't forget, we've also seen the best too.
Absolutely.
I thought just an example here of a historical irony relating to displacement. Far away from Europe, in fact, over towards Vladivostok and Japan, many people were displaced during the Soviet era. And there was a dispute between Japan and Russia relating to the Kuril Islands.
Yeah.
I think the Russians know it as Sakhalin. But there's a curious thing here, that there's this dispute over islands. And just randomly, as you do, there's one island called, and I'm going to really butcher this, Iterup, which is one of the Kuril Islands, that's made of 60% ethnic Ukrainians. And I just thought, well, we can solve this dispute out really easily. How about that island is given to the Ukrainians, given the fact that a majority of the population are Ukrainian?
Yep. Well,
wonderful idea, but I don't believe that Russia say yes.
Well, I mean, Russia said they wanted to, take the Donbass region and everything because there were ethnic Russians there. What's the difference?
Well, there is a nasty joke. So, what are the countries that are neighbors for Russia? Any country that Russia decides to.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't get the argument from Putin as well around NATO, because it strikes me that he was attempting to rush pretty quickly to NATO's border. Doesn't seem to make much sense. I do think that there might be some ideas as to what's going on in the Kremlin. There seems to be some reports in the past few hours that it seems that Putin's close generals, etc., are too frightened to tell him of what's actually going on the ground.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing here.
And what's actually going on in the Russian economy overall, which is interesting. I hope this conflict comes to an end soon. And I hope that Ukraine chooses its own destiny. It's not for other countries to choose it for them.
Yes, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely, and they deserve to choose their own destiny, certainly.
Yes,
but it's such a strange thing of how, I mean, it's such a horrible, awful, obscene war. But it is miraculous the way that it has united almost the entire world, revitalized NATO. Like, it was sort of taking, its last breath. And now I feel it's very much strengthened. and indeed the EU is James mentioned, but even in the United States, it's, I mean, there are a few weirdos, and I'm sure you've heard about them, saying nice things about Putin and that sort of thing. But generally, the American people, are looking at this like everyone else in horror. It's like, oh my goodness, how could that happen and why? Nobody understands the why of it. And, the denazification of Ukraine, it makes no sense. It just makes no sense.
Because it
So
has nothing to do with sense or
nothing.
first of all, with the truth. Nothing.
But it's disturbing that Russian people don't get as much news as the rest of us. And now I understand that some of those news, like rain news out of Russia, is now operating outside of Russia and able to broadcast to the Russian people. Do you know how they're able to do that, either one of you, without being censored? I guess you can't really stop the airwaves.
Okay, James, you go first.
So with this, it's the BBC was shut. BBC News was shut in Russia, and they were given notice. But for the past few hours of their broadcast, they said you can still follow us on BBC News using the dark web.
Right. Oh,
okay.
They did say that.
Yeah, they did. And that struck me as, why would you say that? Oh, hold on a second. In other words, access it as normal. So there are people, especially younger people, who find out in Russia about the outside world using the dark web, where it's very difficult to trace. And this is one of the key points. It's not that, yes, we're back to this information and this news embargo by the Russian government to its people again. Well, please believe me that people are accessing services using the dark web. That's essentially the answer to the question. People are being informed, but it's a very quiet, whisperings about
who
what's
knows how to
happening.
use the dark web? I wouldn't know how to get onto it. And I mean, what about VPNs? Can they use VPNs and access the internet as though they're from another country?
There's things like VPNs. There's, to be fair, the BBC used a QR code. So in other words, just scan and it'll take you to the BBC that's broadcasting on the dark web. It's not saying access and come and find us or try and search for us using the dark web, but instead, come and
come and see us on the dark web, and while you're there, pick up an AR-15 or something, or a Kalashnikov.
I'd hope not, but
You see, the point is that we have to distinguish between what people know and what people say, because right now in Russia you can get the 15-year jail sentence,
yes,
for saying war.
The word war.
Now it's military operation. It's only military operation, as they call it. It's not a war, especially not aggressive war. So now it's military operation and denazification, as James said. So, but then Zelensky says, what? I'm Jewish. My family was Jewish. And now you say that I'm Nazi? So
that's insane.
That's insane, but it has nothing to do with the truth.
Here's, I'm reminded, and I'm not making light, but just on a very difficult topic, that for those who look at the Rennes-le-Chateau mystery, trying to establish the truth is with Ukraine is about as easy as it is with the Rennes-le-Chateau stuff. But when we look at the allegation Putin's raised about Nazis, Ukraine probably has about 2% of its population with sympathies, and yes, some of them were in East Donbass. Let's have a look at our own countries as well. United States, United Kingdom, where we see the far right making
Oh.
gains.
Scary.
And I don't think Ukraine is the one with the Nazi problem. I mean, if you're
No.
if you're supporting ideologies that wish to suspend people's freedom of expression, or that you want to gun down an elected official, then I'd suggest that you have a good look at yourself. And that's something that we need to raise. We need to raise to the game as well. It's not a case of just supporting Ukraine. Well, actually, we can support Ukraine by supporting ourselves and informing people in a better way of what's actually going on in the world, as opposed to where you've got Putin supporters. I read something that it seems that there are more Putin supporters in the United States than in Russia.
That's
by percentage. I think if you even
oh my gosh,
if you have a look at the elections in Russia that aren't free and fair, you've got the people who've locked onto that argument in the US. It strikes me as very unusual.
Wow.
Well, when you say about the elections in Russia, it's the Stalin's saying, and he said it doesn't matter who is voting. What really matters is who is counting the votes.
Well, I enjoyed looking at one of the
don't get into counting votes in America. Oh my God.
One of the Russian
the
oblasts that had I think it was 119% turnout. I thought,
hey, that's great.
That's absolutely great, that.
Yeah.
If some people enjoyed voting, they did it more than once.
Yes, I have. I liked it so much I voted twice. It's crazy. Now, Jacek, you are welcome to stay if you would like. I know you're probably going to work, or maybe not, since it's Saturday.
It's Saturday.
So
that's me going to work.
I have students, but tomorrow, not today. Tomorrow.
Oh, you have students on Sunday?
Yes, these are externals.
Oh, I see. Okay. And what's the topic of your teaching tomorrow?
Well, it's generally pathology.
Pathology.
So pathophysiology and the basics of surgical pathology for the students.
Is it going to be on Zoom? I mean, could I attend?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'll send you the link, but unfortunately it's in Polish.
Oh.
But
I'm
teaching.
I'm teaching in 6 hours, Renee, if you want to join in on Zoom.
Okay.
And he is speaking the proper language.
Yes, well,
that's the first
up for debate.
That sounds like an accusation. No one's ever said that to me before.
That's funny. But as I said, you're welcome to hang with us. We're in the last half hour, so I wanted to get a little bit into the history of that region, which you may very well.
I would love
to add into.
Yeah, okay, I stay if you don't mind.
So not at all. And so let's rock the Cossacks a little bit.
Okay.
Well, the first thing to say is when we talk about Ukraine, let's have a look at what Ukraine actually means in English. It roughly translates to borderland. And the reason why the Ukraine hates being called the Ukraine, as I've just said, it's difficult for us in the English-speaking world to just say the word borderland without saying the borderland. But Ukraine, the Ukrainian government has really specified that they don't like the word the Ukraine.
The Ukraine, exactly.
Because it denotes that it's just a borderland, that there's no sovereignty. So when we're referring to Ukraine, it's Ukraine. Obviously, if you want to talk about the Ukrainian government as things like that, then that's fine.
Right. Yeah, when people used to say the Ukraine, I mean, some people still do, it's almost like hearing like a part of something else, like the outback, or you know what I mean? I would think of Ukraine as something like, Siberia, or I'm not sure, but I can understand why they want to drop the because it sort of separates them as an independent entity, Ukraine.
Actually, if I may, just I just in the latest weeks, we've been corrected about saying it. We have the preposition is the preposition in and on. So we used to say na Ukraine, is on Ukraine, on the area, not in the country, but the area. And now it's no, in Ukraine, in the country. So and that's sticks to what James is saying. Thank you.
It's funny.
It's a one of the. I'm just going to say this. I think there's a bit of cultural racism and xenophobia with Ukraine itself, and generally Eastern Europe. It's assumed that it's not, it's not really a country. It doesn't have its history. Well, it really does. And if you like Vikings, and you're watching this thinking, what has Ukraine got to do with Vikings? Well, buckle up. Russia, where does the word Russia come from? Well, it comes from a group of people who were known as the Rus. And the Rus just means the rowers, really, people who row boats. So Russia, land of the rowers, basically. And these Rus came from Sweden. They were Vikings. In fact, one of the lead, what I called, I don't like the term Vikings. I don't like the term Varangian either. But Varangian is used as a explanation or a description for the Vikings that settled, or the Swedes that settled in and around the Dnieper up through to Moscow. And if you have a look, if you're watching this, if you're listening, you just have to use your imagination. But there's a map at the moment of showing the extent of what were known as the Kievan Rus. And this means that these were rowers, these were Vikings, essentially, or the descendants of them, that were centered in the now Ukrainian capital of Kiev, who essentially settled from the Baltics, from southern Sweden and Finland, right the way down to the borders of the Eastern Roman Empire. Ukrainian history goes back many, many, many tens of thousands of years. There's Cro-Magnon sites, caves, sites dating back 32,000 years. It's been the bed of settlement of the Greeks. The city of Odessa was settled by the ancient Greeks. Ukraine has a very rich history, but if we just consider that one of the reasons that Russians are told now by state media, propaganda, that kind of stuff, that Ukraine's actually part of Russia, it's never existed. One of the arguments has been that the Kievan Rus essentially founded both Ukraine and Russia. And this is one of the nonsense arguments that, we were all part of one country, so we need to take that. I mean, if that argument washes, then France should reclaim England, perhaps, things like this. But it has a very rich history indeed, really dating back, as I say, tens of thousands of years. And the Kievan Rus, the nation based in Kiev and had principal towns and cities, for example, Novgorod, which just means sort of new town, new castle, that kind of thing. The Kievan Rus was by far the largest country in Europe. And for dates, we're looking really around the 1200s and 1240s. Sorry, Renee, did you want to?
I was just going to say, I mean, sort of with that kind of logic, especially if that was the largest area, then, wouldn't it make just as much sense for Ukraine to want to annex Russia?
Well, again, it strikes
none
me
of it
that we're
makes any
talking
sense,
about
but
sense.
yeah.
But there we go. And the borders of today's Ukraine and the countries that have existed after the Kievan Rus, etc., etc., it's been very fluid in this part of the world. There were a large number of nomadic peoples. There still are, in fact. But in Eastern Europe, you had a group called the Cumans, for example, who were a very fierce tribe, who were often used for battles, and our famous Cossacks. There was a real sense of defending the land that you live in, as opposed to I'm really part of this country for quite a while. So the Kievan Rus is a description of the people. It's not actually a description of a country, is it? Now, the Kievan Rus begins to split and fragment around major cities. So you have Muscovy, which is centered around Moscow. Or, sorry, Moscow. That's how you say it in the US, isn't it?
I say Moscow, but I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Well, we
Moscow.
say Moscow. They say Moskva.
Moskva.
But it's Moskva. In Russian, in Russian language, in many cases, we pronounce a, though it's written o. It's Moskva.
Oh,
But it's that's written Moskva.
Moskva.
Yes.
We're learning all of the language this evening. Join us next time for
Up to you to teach you.
For lessons in Russian language.
The terrible trio. It's great stuff, though, isn't it? And yeah, this Kievan Rus begins to separate, and one entity, like I say, with Viking heritage, Swedish heritage, Gotlander heritage, begins to move eastwards. And where we have Ukraine today, begins to merge with some other countries, such as one called the Polish and Lithuanian Commonwealth. And I have no idea why this image is looking like it is. But anyway,
That's
the
odd.
Polish...
Was that strange?
Wasn't that strange? But the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, again, a very large entity as a country, consumed quite a large chunk of Ukraine, really dating from the 13th, 14th century up until the 18th century, roughly. The borders of Ukraine, what we consider Ukraine, have changed. And in fact, the name of the area, this borderland, really comes from it being on the precipice of particular countries and entities. It should be noted that I've completed a book, as listeners will be aware, but there was recent finds discussing the North Americas from the 1380s in Genoa, found in Milan, 1380s, 1330s, excuse me, that had specified, oh, well, actually, there's this huge land mass just past Greenland that was passed down by Vikings. Well, one of the interesting parts is Crimea was that peninsula that was annexed in 2014. And I should say, when we're referring to the Ukrainian crisis and invasion and war, this has been going on since 2014. It's not this year. It's been going on for some time now.
Yeah.
But Crimea was controlled by the Republic of Venice. Just as the Roman Empire controlled quite a large part of Crimea, the Republic of Venice did too. This was a real central trading post for the Venetians. And they're kicked out. It's stabby time and things like this. You also have, just before the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, I'm sort of doing things in reverse order now, but you had the invasions of the Mongols. They hit the Golden Horde, as they were called, they're hitting. And if you imagine the amount of conflict that is going on in these borderland territories that are changing, I think that's one of the reasons why deeply ingrained to the peoples of Ukraine is that fierce fighting, this is our land and you're not entitled to it. Now, during the 17th century, a period of Ukrainian history is known as the Cossack Hetmanate. And essentially the Cossacks, a group of very fierce, we know them for their military engagements with powers and being used by the Russians and things like this. But the Cossacks were once threatened. The Ukrainians were threatened with invasion by Sultan Mehmed IV. Now, unfortunately, I can't read out how the Ukrainians replied to the letter.
Yes, you can.
But what I can do is I will read out what the Sultan says, and he's threatening an invasion. Okay, 1625. And it goes like this. From Sultan Mehmed IV to the Zaporozhian Cossacks, Ukrainian Cossacks. These are people, remember? As the Sultan, son of Muhammad, brother of the sun and moon, grandson and viceroy of God, ruler of the kingdoms of Macedonia, Babylon, Jerusalem, Upper and Lower Egypt, emperor of emperors, sovereign of sovereigns, extraordinary knight, never defeated, steadfast guardian of the tomb of Jesus Christ, trustee chosen by God himself, the hope and comfort of Muslims, co-founder and great defender of Christians, I command you, the Zaporozhian Cossacks, to submit to me voluntarily and without any resistance, and to desist from troubling me with your attacks. Now, I'm not going to read the reply because we will be taken off air.
We've been warned.
We've been warned.
We've been warned.
But if you imagine, that's the Sultan giving a very polite and self-aggrandizing letter. The Cossacks are a very fierce group, and they're not taking any prisoners. They send a reply that basically tells the Sultan where to go. And if you want a bit of a feeling of Ukrainian pride and a barrel of laughs, and I warn you, it will make your tears come down in laughter, please feel free, if you wish, to look up the reply of the Zaporozhian Cossacks. That's Zaporozhian Cossacks to the Sultan. And I expect.
But you're going to be recording that response, and we're going to put it up on our website, newrennies.org, so that people can check it out a little later. But it is hilarious, obscenity laced. I mean, like you would not believe. And as I was saying earlier, it reminded me very much of the recent response of the Ukrainian soldiers to the Russian ship.
That's what I wanted to mention. Yes, it sticks so closely.
Yes,
you know what to do. Yes, go and.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yep.
And there's history and form, and whenever people have threatened invasion of that particular area, they've been met with very similar replies. Again, what we see after the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in the area has to retreat. In fact, that particular country is sliced up by large powers, Russia being one of them. So this includes Jacek's home country. Yes. Poland was
divided between three empires, and it was gone for more than 100 years. Actually, 127 years. There was no Poland on the map.
Absolutely. You know, by a treaty, by someone in a palace somewhere, just wiped out. What's known as the partitions. Now, for where we call Ukraine today, this is consumed into the Russian Empire. And so when we look at, when we think of the Russian Empire, we know in history we're coming straight up to one of the periods that I studied at uni, which is the industrial period. We know we're going to hit the Russian Revolution. And so in the revolutionary period, this is the after World War One, or during World War One, actually, 1917, there's a series of uprisings across the Russian Empire of states declaring themselves people's republics. So Ukraine, before it's consumed into the Soviet Union, was an independent republic known as the People's Republic of Ukraine that lasted from 1917 to 1920. And while the Russian Civil War, and it's not stabby time, it's choppy time for the Tsars and their family and all of this, the Soviet Union begins to annex these people's republics. Post World War II, Russia begins to form a lot of the country's borders that we see today. Poland, for example, Ukraine, for example. And if you're watching the program, I've just taken this map from Wikipedia. You can, it's free to use kind of thing. But you can see that Ukraine as a territory loses some territory to Russia, but also is then given or takes, it depends on your perspective. It's very sensitive in the countries around Ukraine as to what happened here. But you can see that some of Polish territory was given to Ukraine in 1939, some Romanian, Hungarian, etc., etc. Now, one of the reasons Russia went into Donbass and Crimea is they claimed that, well, Russia gave Ukraine Crimea, and as such, we're now taking it back. Their argument was around language groups, and we've heard this before, haven't we? The Anschluss, the Sudetenland, etc., etc. It's never as easy as speaking the same language defines a territory. It certainly used to be a couple of millennia ago where, the language or the people that you are defined where you were. For example, Robert the Bruce, we were referring at first hour, was King of Scots, not of Scotland, of the people. But times have moved on, and where we are today is a country that declares its independence when the Soviet Union begins to break down, and has been an independent state now for 32 years, whatever. So when we see the idea, just say this as an historian, the word annex, you read it all the time in British history books because Britain went round with flags and went, it's mine. Yeah. Basically went around the world stealing countries and people. After the Second World War, the word annex sort of comes away from Western dictionaries. We don't use it so much. So in 2014, the thing that sent a chill down my spine was the word Russia has annexed Crimea. Now, that is would have gone into a little bit more detail, but essentially a very, very quick history of the area that we call Ukraine. It is much more faceted than what we're, what I've just gone through. It has a very rich history, a cultural history. Romans, Greeks, Persians, Egyptians,
Venetians.
the Venetians. These are all the powers that drive tourists to Greece or Egypt. Ukraine deserves to be noticed too, and when hopefully when this crisis ends and Ukraine becomes master of its own destiny once more, should visit it. There's a lot of very ancient sites.
I have a feeling there will be a lot of people making their way over to support that area, bringing their tourist dollars to Ukraine to help. And I think there'll probably be a lot of people doing their vacations, donating time to help rebuild and that sort of thing. I'm hoping that's what we'll see. I feel like that is, because as we've noted, there is a big unity around this whole idea. I think we all see in ourselves the possibility of the same thing happening. So we should all support each other to make sure that we've got each other's backs as we do. But gosh, I can't believe we've already almost at the end of the show. And did you have some thoughts to wrap up? Because we've only got about 2 minutes left.
Well, just very quickly, and again, it comes to unity. It's okay to disagree with each other.
Yeah.
If when we disagree with each other, it reinforces our opinion or it changes it.
Exactly.
It's fine to disagree with each other. But always remember that when you disagree with each other, it's not always personal. It doesn't require physical violence. It just means that you've disagreed on one point. There is always much more that unifies us than separates us. Always. And if there's any message that can come out of the worst of humanity, perhaps we should focus a little bit more on the best, which is that spirit of unity. And I wish more of the world were unified in supporting Ukraine. Maybe it will come.
I think it's headed in that direction.
Beautifully said.
Yes. Jacek, thank you so much for
my pleasure.
agreeing
Always.
to come on again and join us and give us an update. And James, it's so good to have you back. And we're going to have to keep you coming with more of your discoveries and interesting things to talk about history. So that's what we're about here. Want to thank everybody. Say good night.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
All right,
Bye.
guys. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Bye.
Peace, everybody.